Hey everybody, we're going to continue our studies on geometry, and this week we're going to get into three-dimensional figures. This week we're going to take it kind of slow because I know for some of you geometry is a newer thing. And then next week we'll start talking a little bit more about surface area, which is just a continuation of what we did before when we were trying to find the area of figures last week, and that was when we did base times height and use those kinds of formulas. So this week we're just going to focus on identifying the shapes, and then next week we'll start moving back into area again. All right, so I know you're not going to take notes on this. I just want you to hear it, but you may want to take notes on it. Maybe it would be helpful to you. So the shapes that we're going to talk about this week are going to be polyhedrons, and they are three-dimensional shapes. Before, when we were studying area, we were only talking about 2D shapes, flat shapes. They had no dimension to them. It was something you could just draw a flat shape on your paper, and that was a polygon. But this week we're talking about polyhedrons, and that means that they are three-dimensional, just like these pictures that I have up here for you. All right, the faces of a polyhedron are what make up the sides of the shape. So for example, I have this shape here, and all of these sides, which are just a 2D, like this side is a two-dimensional rectangle, forget all the rest of it, just this one side is called a face. And this shape in particular has 8 faces. It has 6 that go around because this is a hexagon. So it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. I'm back to the beginning. 6 faces plus the top and the bottom, which are called bases. But they are also faces. Bases are faces. So this shape has 8 faces. And we're going to talk more about that, so don't be nervous. An edge is the line segment where 2 polygon faces meet. So where this polygon and this polygon meet, this edge is called an edge. I think it's really simple. It just makes us feel nervous because we hear it in a vocab word, but you know what an edge is. A vertex is the point where edges come together and meet. So all of these points on any shape where 2 edges come together and make a point, that's a vertex. In a singular way, it's called a vertice. So here's just another image to help you understand what that looks like. If you couldn't see it well on my camera, here are your edges. And faces are the flat sides, and then the vertices are the points. Okay, so let's talk about prisms. Prisms have rectangular faces. This is how we're going to identify them. They have 2 identical bases, and the bases identify the type of prism. So we have 2 main shapes that we're going to be talking about, prisms and pyramids, and you guys are lucky because we did all of this kind of prep stuff to get ready for the IAR and for maps testing, which we didn't have to do. We got out of that, so we were lucky there. But I have already talked about this stuff with you guys, so it should sound somewhat familiar to you. We have prisms and we have pyramids. Prisms have rectangular sides. All of the sides are rectangular. Here's a different one. All of the sides are rectangular. Remember that a square is a rectangle because a rectangle is just a shape that has 2 sets of parallel sides. Okay, it doesn't talk about how long they are. They could all be identical. They don't have to be identical length, but they have to have 2 identical sides that are equal. So a square is a rectangle. So let me look here. This is a prism, right? It's a square. It's a cube. All of the sides are identical, whoops, in size and shape. But it is a prism because it has rectangular sides. This is also a prism because it has rectangular sides. Okay. And then secondly, it says that a prism, or I guess the third point is that a prism has bases, 2 identical bases that identify the type of prism. So if we look at this one, it is a 5-sided figure, right? 5-sided shape is a pentagon. It's in pink there on your screen. And so we call it a pentagonal, because it's a pentagon, pentagonal prism. All right. This one looks just like the purple one on the screen, or the green one, I guess. It's more like the green one. It has 2 identical bases. Okay, the bases are squares. Now the sides are rectangles, right? But to be a prism, you have to have rectangular faces. So the rectangles just make it a prism, but the squares on the end identify what kind of prism it is. It is a square prism. Here's another one. It's in green, just like the one I'm holding. It's in green on the screen. 6 sides. It's a hexagon. The 2 identical bases are the hexagon, and the sides are all rectangles. It's a hexagonal prism. All right, let's move on to pyramids. Pyramids come to a point, right? Pyramids have triangular sides, so that's the big identifier between prisms and pyramids. A prism has rectangular sides, a pyramid has triangular sides, and a pyramid comes to a point, right? A pyramid only has one base, and the base identifies the type of pyramid that it is. So here is an example of a pyramid, same as the color. I think wherever these came from, these pictures, they obviously had this set of geometry shapes that I have because I made them the same color. So this is a 6-sided shape. It has one base, right? The sides are triangles. All right. A 6-sided shape is a hexagon, so this is a hexagonal pyramid, comes to a point. Here's another one. This is the base. It's a triangle. It's what it sits on. The base is opposite of the point, in case you're confused which side would be considered the base. So the side that's opposite of the point, the top point. All of the sides are a triangle. This is a triangular pyramid. Here's another one. One base, right? All pyramids have one base. The base is a square. The sides are triangular. It comes to a point. This is a square pyramid. All right, and we are going to practice some more on those shapes just to make sure that you feel good about identifying those. I'm sure you guys will do awesome on it. Okay, so let's talk about nets. Nets are an arrangement of a 2-dimensional figure when you take a 3D figure and you unfold it, basically. So we want to know, what does it look like before it's all folded together to make a 3D shape? So when a net is folded and assembled, you create a 3D polyhedron like we have been talking about. So I'm going to show you those. I know you've seen them with my classroom set that I've just been showing you. I will show you those nets in just a second. All right, so this one is a square prism that has been unfolded, all right, as a cube. So when it sits here as a cube, all folded up, it makes a cube. But when you unfold it, it looks like this. So let me show you some examples of different nets. And this is something that's just going to take you guys, I think, a little bit of practice to figure out how to make the nets. So this was a square prism, right? It has a square bases, rectangular sides. And when I open it up, it looks like this. Hopefully you can see it all. Okay, it looks like this. So we fold in our 2 bases. Hopefully you can see that okay. Fold in our 2 bases and then create that prism box again. Okay. Let me show you a different one. This one is our square pyramid, right? We saw the square base, the triangular sides. It comes to a point. When I unfold it, I've got my triangular sections and my square base that it sits on. Okay, so I would start with my base and then have this one triangle on the side. Let me see if I can fold this up so you guys can see it. So one triangle on the side, and then you know that there's a triangle on each side of this square and that they all come up and make a point. Okay, another triangle, the last triangle, and there's my shape. Let me show you a different one. This is our pentagonal prism, right? It's got a pentagon, 2 pentagon bases. 2 bases make it a prism, along with the rectangular sides makes it a prism. So I have my 2 bases on the ends that I could open up, and then rectangles between it. Okay, so when you're thinking about how to sketch these out, first start with your base, and however many sides that base has, that's how many rectangles or triangles you have to draw, depending on whether it's a prism, which would have rectangles, or a pyramid, which would have triangles. Okay. All right, let's transition over to our workbook. I would like you guys to get out your workbook and open up to page 416. Okay, we're on page 416 and 417 in the workbook, and we're just going to do a couple practice problems, and then I'm going to give you an opportunity to practice on your own. So let's look at problem number 5 and 6. It says in 5 and 6 to classify the solid figures. Well, on number 5, we see that it has, first of all, it comes to a point. Secondly, its sides are triangular, so that tells us it is a pyramid. Number 6, then, of course, is a prism. It has rectangular sides. It does not come to a point. And we can tell that it has two ends that are identical. So this is a prism. Number 7 and 8, it says identify each solid figure. Well, the first thing I'm going to look at is how many bases does it have? It only has one square. So that tells me immediately that this is a pyramid. But just to make sure that I'm right about it, I have to look at what are the sides that connect to that base. They are all triangles. This is going to come up to a point when it's all folded up together. So this is the base identifies it. This is a square pyramid. And with number 8, I'm looking for either one or two bases. So whichever has either only one of that shape or only two of that shape, that's the base. So if you're wondering, well, how do I know which is the base and which is a side? There will either be only one or two of them. If there's more, it is not your base. So for example, we look at these, there's 3 of these. It can't be a base because there can only be 1 or 2. So the triangles are on the end are the bases. So this is a triangular. And then you have to ask yourself, is it a pyramid or is it a prism? Well, if these are our bases, then these are our faces, and they are rectangles, so that means it is a prism. It's a rectangular prism. Okay, let's move over to page 417. All right, on page 417, I would like you guys to do 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Just give that a shot. For number 15, we'll do this together. So how do you figure out what this shape looks like if you folded it back up? For some of you, I know it's really easy to look at this and just visualize in your mind what that would make. But for some of us, it takes a little bit more practice, and that's okay, because I know that this is a challenging subject that we're talking about right now. So don't get frustrated. We're going to keep working on this all week long, and again next week, so don't worry about it. And I also want you guys to know that we are working ahead of the other classes. We are ahead of every other class. And so if you're nervous about what's going to happen next year and everybody's going to be behind, not you guys. We have really been powering through stuff. So we're in such a good position, and this has really turned out to be a good thing. So don't be nervous if this is tough for you, because you're going to go all over it all again next year. Okay. All right, let's do 15 together. So we have our two triangles on the end, and then these are our faces that are in between. So we have a triangle here, and then here's a face, right? A rectangle, and there is your other triangular end, okay? Now, I know that some of you might be like, I'm not an artist. This is going to be really hard for me. Just do your best, give it a whirl, try it out, and just remember, you guys are ahead of everybody. So this is excellent practice for you guys. You're going to be rock stars at this next year. All right, switch over to Canvas. I want you to put your answers for numbers 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 in Canvas, and then come back tomorrow and I will explain how to solve those problems. Thanks, guys. Bye.